Locality of Sancho under the threat of being cut out from the rest of the region after precipitations interrupt the fluidity of traffic between Chang and Sancho in the west region of Cameroon. Kanto donates over 400 million Fcfa francs to boost Cameroon's efforts in tackling the COVID-19 pandemic that is currently holding the country under stress. And Mamfe, a historic town of the country, continues to remain in the mind of many Cameroonians, with the hanging bridge over the river Mamfe that continues to remain a major touristic destination after years of dilapidation. Those are the main stories of this edition. Thanks for watching us. I am Ben Menepufong. Thanks for joining us on the 7:30 News.
Each of us must comply with the measures that have been taken.
Thanks for joining us. Let's take you first to the West region, where the population of Sancho in the West, in the Menoir division, have been expressing their gratitude to the presidential couple of Cameroon for coming to their assistance after the floods that flushed them out of their houses following the heavy rains of last week. They were thanking the president through Mr. Atanganji Paul, who came out there with a relief assistance to the victims of the rainfalls that took them out of their natural habitats, and for which they are still waiting for the government to relocate them. Ebenezer Akanga is out there in Sancho with the Minister of Territorial Administration.
Upon arrival in Sancho, the Minister of Territorial Administration, Paul Atanganji, saw for himself how parts of the town are still in water several days after the floods. He also visited a portion of the Melong Sancho road that is on the verge of collapse because of effects of the floods. Despite the fact that the minister arrived at the Sancho ceremonial ground at nightfall, the flood victims and population stayed put to welcome him. Both the mayor of Sancho and the member of parliament of the locality expressed joy for the visit, saying that it's been about 40 years that a member of government has not visited Sancho. They thanked the head of state for the aid to the flood victims. Paul Atanganji delivered a message of comfort and assurance to the victims and population of Sancho.
President Paul Biya does not forget any person. Bear in mind that President Paul Biya is head of state and the father of nations. He tells you what he does and he does what he tells you.
185 families in Sancho have been affected by the floods.
Following the heavy downpour that came down on the parts of the south of the littoral region, 4 persons have died following that landslide in the Kope-Mwaninguba division of the southwest region of Cameroon. The incident occurred after about 40 houses were destroyed and the lone road linking the 7 villages of the community were completely cut off, leaving the inhabitants in distress. Esther Kmer reports on the picture of the distress in that part of the country.
Rainfall before now was a blessing to the people of Mbo hinterland, whose mainstay is agriculture, but today they wished it never rained. Troubled and grieved, they have lost 3 of theirs buried in the rubble and another swept away by the waters. Those who survived are homeless, as their mud houses, 40 in total, have given way to the intensity of the downpour. A couple of the affected are struggling to flee, but hundreds still remain trapped as the rains persists.
In some areas, gullies and valleys have been created in the roads to about 40 meters deep and about 20 meters wide, while in other places we had deposits of rubbles up to the height of 25 meters.
4 water catchments and their pipes are now buried, and the lone transformer has been blown off, leaving the residents of Kongombo dreading not only the torrential rains, but also darkness that will surely last a while.
And the authorities of the inhabitants of the city of Douala are unanimously agreed that the climate change and anarchical construction of houses partially provoked the flood that hit the city recently. They are, however, aware that the littering of used plastic bottles and household waste in the gutters equally provoked the occurrence of the ongoing catastrophe. Gladys Tambe Chochoba reports on the current situation that is prevailing on the ground and its causes.
Mr. A dumps a used plastic bottle in a gutter. Minutes later, Mr. B does the same, and before one notices, the area is transformed into a reservoir. An unpleasant sight indeed, especially when months later, the same people responsible for giving the city a bad image are victims of floods. In the city of Douala, it is a normal trend. Used plastic bottles are as visible as the clouds. Unfortunately, drainage canals are the dumping sites of such waste. The Newtown Aeroport neighborhood in Douala 2, one of the areas worst hit by last Friday's floods, is a perfect illustration of what obtains in most parts of the city. At the Douala 2 City Council, the problem managing waste remains a bone of contention.
Since 1916, Cameroon adopted a national framework concerning the management of solid waste. As from now, every person who throws waste in the environment will be punished.
With torrential rains announced in the coming weeks, managing floods is therefore a matter of urgency.
The city mayor of Yaoundé has given 48 hours for all those who are illegally occupying public space in the Biembasi neighborhood to quit or be forcefully evicted from where they are. Luc Messier-Tangana sounded the warning today at the grounds where some public and private enterprises are erecting stores along the pavements and near high-tension cables with all the dangers that it entails. Gilbert Ongene has the details in this following report.
Since the city mayor of Yaoundé took office on March 5, 2020, he has been ensuring that urban disorder in the city is kept under check. A case in point is here at this bakery in the Biembasi neighborhood.
Je lui ai donc servi une mise en demeure.
I am asking them to liberate this public space within 48 hours, without which we will be forced to demolish all of these structures.
Les services techniques de la mairie de la ville allaient le faire.
He contends that for a city preparing to host international sports competitions, anarchical occupation of public space and any other activity that poses a threat to human life must be stopped. He has therefore given those who are constructing these stores until Friday, August 28, to demolish them.
The Canadian High Government has offered about 400 million CFA francs to boost Cameroon's efforts in handling the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. The announcement was made in Yaoundé today by the Canadian High Commissioner to Cameroon, Richard Bale, after an audience with Prime Minister Joseph John Gute in Yaoundé Tuesday. Christian Che Atam reports from the Star Building.
The 1-hour, 15-minute audience, which Prime Minister Joseph John Gute granted the Canadian High Commissioner to Cameroon, Richard Bale,
focused on Cameroon's handling of the COVID-19 pandemic.
I shared with the Prime Minister that we have just announced an additional funding of about 400 million Cfa francs channeled through UNICEF, and this will be focused on the safe reopening of the schools in October. We had already provided a significant amount of funding to UNICEF.
The participation of Canadian companies in the construction of sports infrastructures also came under review.
Canadian companies that are involved here in Cameroon, including McGill, who have worked on the reconstruction of the Stade de la Réunification in Douala and are currently working on the stadium in Olembe, and we know that these stadiums are very important for the Chan and the Can.
The diplomat says his country remains a trusted ally of Cameroon in the pursuit of peace and development.
Statistics indicate that about 2 million people in Cameroon are living with disabilities. The Minister of Social Affairs, Pauline Irengene, revealed this today in Yaoundé while presiding at the 2020 session of the National Committee for the Rehabilitation of the Socio-Economic Reinsertion of Disabled Persons in the country. The forum was aimed at seeking the protection of the rights of vulnerable persons in the Cameroonian society. Victor Siga reports on what came out of today's consultations.
The meeting was to evaluate deficiencies of persons with disabilities in Cameroon and also a mid-term assessment of regulatory texts under elaboration, fixing modalities on the protection and promotion of this group.
We talk about all types of deficiencies, of invalidity.
The framework is expected to facilitate the coordination of efforts put in place by administrations, civil societies and other private entities working on behalf of this vulnerable group of persons.
Regional committees are being created such that wherever somebody living with a disability finds him or herself, they should have a representative, first by the type of deficiency, and secondly according to their regions where they come from.
For the task ahead, specialized committees will be put in place to ensure their citizenship, political and social integration.
Cameroon and Africa have been declared wild polio virus free. The declaration was made public by the World Health Organization through the voice of its Director General, Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus. Members of the African Regional Certification Commission for polio made the news known in Cameroon today. We have this excerpt of the stories to us by Alice Mbe.
It is considered a real major achievement. I mean, the world has been looking for, the only disease that has ever been eradicated is smallpox. And when the World Health Assembly took the decision in 1988, they took that resolution that they will eradicate polio by 2000. So you see where we are now, 20 years later. So it was just the second disease to be eradicated. But the end of it from 2000 up to now, it has gone on for so long. So once we finally, the 4 regions had achieved it, we in Africa thought
the voluntary boards, the members of the National Commission of the Promotion of Bilingualism and Multiculturalism have lauded the efforts of officials in the Ministry of the promotion of the use of the 2 official languages in the Ministry of the Supreme State Afrique Orders. Tumfo Barrister Nico Halle was speaking yesterday at the ministry while heading a mission from the delegation of the National Commission for the Promotion of Bilingualism and the Multiculturalism in Cameroon, while assessing the level of the use of the 2 languages in that part of the government department. We have this report reported to us by our correspondent, Lehman Losha.
At the Ministry of Transport, Ntumfo Barrister Nico Hale, member of the National Commission on the Promotion of Bilingualism and Multiculturalism, was mission head and was received by Minister Jean-Ernest Ngale-Bibe together with his team.
Realize that the constitutional provisions that make for the promotion of bilingualism are respected to the letter here. There are a few challenges which they raised. They don't have sufficient translators. We have recommended that should be taken care of.
The head of mission reiterated that the working visit is to appreciate from the user's viewpoint the practice of bilingualism, that is English and French, and to see how it can be improved.
Voluntary boys and girls have taken the engagement to sensitize the population of the country to be able to be specifically engaged in the communication and information technologies. Cameroon's government and its voluntary partners have been engaging in that in the week that has been going on for the information and communication technologies that will be counted by the selection of those who will benefit from President Paul Biya's crown that will be given to the best IT innovation technology in the country. Let's now hear this in this report with Yoti Kale Lisanga.
Envisaging the normal holiday frenzy, the authorities say is a call for concern with the coronavirus still lurking. As a result, a campaign for a civic and patriotic holiday without COVID-19 is inevitable.
We'll deploy all our mass animation teams, the conscripts of the civil service, the leaders of the youth association and movement, and all the youth volunteers to go on the field, organize activities of sensitization against COVID.
The new and traditional media will also be used to educate the youth. Crtv has thus partnered with the key actors to strengthen the campaign.
We are waiting for the youths to express themselves on our different platforms, radio, television, and web, to share their experiences and their worries.
1 month of awareness raising, therefore, on the need for responsible behavior, respect of COVID-19 preventive measures, promoting bilingualism, and saying no to drug abuse.
The wearing of face masks in public places will be mandatory until further notice.
Let's now take you over to the Public Service Emergency Operations Center out there at Voli here in Yaoundé, where Baldwin Sama will be talking with its guests on how the management of the coronavirus disease can be managed in families where the fear of the hospital care is still high. Hello, Baldwin. Good evening and thanks for joining us.
Good evening to you, Ben Menopufong, and welcome. Previously, it was difficult to prove scientifically that the COVID-19, any woman who is COVID-19 positive, pregnant women who are COVID-19 positive could infect the unborn baby with the virus. Things have evolved, and today, scientifically speaking, it is possible to prove that any pregnant woman who is COVID-19 positive can actually infect her unborn baby. And that is what we shall be discussing tonight with our guest, Professor Robinson Boo, who is a seasoned gynecologist and the Director of Family Health in the Ministry of Public Health. Good evening, Prof.
Good evening.
Tell us, Prof, how possible is it for a pregnant woman who is COVID-19 positive to infect her baby with the virus?
Well, there is growing evidence that the virus is now found at the placenta bed, where the placenta is attached. There's also growing evidence that the virus is found in amniotic fluid. That's the liquid where the child grows in. There's also growing evidence that the virus is found in vaginal secretions. And there is some publications that have shown direct transmission of the virus from the mother to the baby, especially in advanced diseases. So our take-home message here is that we shouldn't allow our pregnant women go to the stage of advanced disease. We want them tested early. We want them put on treatment very early so that they don't go to the stage where they can transmit the virus to the children easily.
And what happens in a situation where that pregnant woman who has actually been tested positive for COVID-19 actually gets the baby infected? What happens?
Now, the Cameroonian Society of Pediatricians have developed a protocol, a working document on how such children are managed. And so management should be multifaceted. The gynecologist will deliver the children and immediately hand over to pediatricians who have developed guidelines on how to manage such children.
Thank you so much, Professor Robin Sumbo, for being our guest this evening. We remind our viewers that you are a seasoned gynecologist and Director of Family Health in the Ministry of Public Health. The take-home message is clear. It is now possible for a pregnant woman who is COVID-19 positive to infect her unborn baby. What they simply need to do is they should continue with their regular visits to the hospitals, visit their gynecologist, and get the adequate prescriptions that will avoid any further contamination and infection from the mother to the child. Back to you, Ben Menopufo.
Thank you very much, Baldwin Sama, with your guest, Professor Robinson Boo, on those updates. And just time for us to say that about 400 voluntary boys and girls have taken the engagement to sensitize the population of the Adamawa region to the importance of respecting anti-COVID-19 barriers measures. As Amos Enonyakwet reports, the one-month holiday without COVID-19 campaign organized by the Catholic Church as an objective to change the behaviors of the citizens in the Adamawa is seemingly bearing some fruits. Amos Enonyakwet about reports from CRTV Adamawa.
For 1 month, the 40 voluntary boys and girls will comb the nooks and crannies of Ngaoundere, reiterating to the population the utmost importance of respecting all barrier measures. Prior to the campaign launch, the 40 mobile sensitization agents were trained on the nitty-gritties of the COVID-19 pandemic, a message they are expected to transmit to the population of Ngaoundere in the 2 official languages as well as some 8 local languages.
We are going to the field to sensitize the population of Ngaoundere against the pandemic COVID-19.
The 1-month campaign organized by the Codas Caritas of the Ngaoundere Diocese of the Catholic Church has as aim a change of behavioral patterns leading to a drastic reduction of the spread and contamination of the COVID-19 pandemic, and also to encourage the population carry out a voluntary COVID-19 screening. While launching the campaign, the Bishop of the Ngaoundere Diocese, His Lordship Emmanuel Abo, encouraged the sensitization agents to use skills and knowledge acquired help reduce the COVID-19 pandemic in the region. It should be noted the Adamawa region has some 216 confirmed cases.
Trainees of the Center Training Institute in Ekoman are briefing up their professional and technical aptitudes obtained from the institution with those of technical training contracts to be able to meet up with the demands of the job market. The trainees of the Lonako Valley Authority in the Mungu division of the Littoral region were currently doing their comparative evaluation of the training effected by them by the institutions as to be able to meet the demands of the job market. We have details in this story with Beatrice Ngo.
Gabriel Njankwe served as international civil servant for 25 years and was UN resident representative to 5 countries. But for the love for fatherland, he anticipated his retirement with a vision to make his dream, the Lonako Valley Authority, his own Silicon Valley. He and his team have visited the CRTV training school in Ekunu to share the experience with learners and to school learners on team spirit and business creation upon graduation.
Our will was to explain to the student that the entrepreneurship is one of the ways to develop the country, and ISMAM is available, is ready to help.
The team from the Lonako Valley Authority also met with CRTV's top management, with whom they discussed possibilities of partnering in areas of training. They also visited CRTV's installations at the Training Institute, at the CRTV radio and TV. In the days ahead, an MOU will be signed between the CRTV and the Lonako Valley Authority.
Among the several tourist wonders that the Manyu division in the southwest region of Cameroon is blessed with is the historic hanging bridge constructed over the river Manyu in Mamfe. Constructed by Germans during the colonial era, the dilapidating structure still remains a major port of call to the first-time visitors in the town of Mamfe. BrigadeAntiSardinard takes us to a discovery of this German colonial relic.
The most outstanding is the Mamfe Hanging Bridge, commonly referred to by many as the German Bridge. The Mamfe Hanging Bridge, constructed across the Badi River, empties itself into the Manyu River, which to the Manyu man is the mother to all small streams and rivers.
I'm crossing the bridge to go and do felling for the Catholic mission, which they are intend to develop a cocoa farm.
Our survival depends largely on this bridge. Thanks to the bridge, we can have access to our crops. When we sell the crops, we use the money to send our children to school.
The bridge has greatly assisted in the agricultural sector, as well as enhanced the education of some children. The 113-year-old Mamfe Hanging Bridge was renovated by the Germans 70 years after construction, precisely in 1934. However, there are still some difficulties faced by its users.
Thank you very much, Brigade Assam, for recalling us the relics of the Mamfe Hanging Bridge. And that's where we end this edition of the 7:30 News. Thanks for watching and good night.
In this connection, we should avoid stigmatizing